Hello and welcome to MSTieCast. I'm Toby.
I'm Joshua McLeod.
And I'm Justin Toner.
And on this episode, we have a very special treat for everybody. It's kind of an unusual episode. Normally, when we do interviews, we are all present, or as many of us are present as possible, and we try to get a good, even perspective on the guest, and we all try to ask them questions. Well, this time that really couldn't happen due to scheduling issues. Most of the interview is conducted by our own Josh McLeod.
That's me!
I pop in very briefly. And the guest that we have is Mr. Jordan Fields, who... What is his actual title?
Executive Vice President of Acquisitions at Shout Factory.
I've finally been able to talk to somebody from Shout Factory about MST3K.
Again, Jordan has been involved in producing the box sets for the last couple of years.
And obviously is going to be involved in the new incarnation of MST3K, which just closed its Kickstarter and raised $6.3 million, more than any other TV or movie Kickstarter in history. It beat the record of the Veronica Mars movie, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, it truly is.
Mm-hmm. Enough about the extemporaneous, miscellaneous stuff. We're going to take it now to the interview with Mr. Jordan Fields of Shout Factory. Take it away, Josh.
My first question is, when did you first see Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I first saw MST probably, honestly, I don't think I saw it until I got to Rhino. Not really. I had seen a few episodes in the 90s because a friend of mine was into it, but I don't think I really got into it until I started working at Rhino and working on the box sets. And then, of course, I was watching every single episode, so that would be it.
And how did you get involved into DVD licensing and producing?
I was working as a freelance producer on bonus material for Rhino about 16 years ago, and I started doing some of the work on Mystery Science releases and a lot of their other stuff like Monkeys and Hasbro titles. So I was working in a freelance capacity for Rhino, and then I needed to find a steadier job. So my sister-in-law, who actually was in production at Rhino, introduced me to the guys who then had just started Shout Factory. This would be in 2003, because, of course, she had worked for them when they were at Rhino, when they owned Rhino. So I met them, and they were a brand new company, and they were looking for someone in their DVD production department, and I started there doing that.
And what was the first DVD set you produced, the first Mystery Science Theater DVD set you produced for Rhino?
That would be Volume 9, I believe. Nope, I think it was Volume 8. Volume 8.
Hobgoblin's Phantom Planet, Dead Talk Back, and Monster Go-Go?
Yes, although I don't recall that I did. I think those titles had already been licensed by the time. I think I just worked as a producer on the set. I wasn't yet clearing the movies, which I know I started with Volume 9. So on Volume 8, I was just strictly in a production capacity.
Very interesting. So I've got a ton of questions. We're just going to jump right into them.
Sure.
These are all fan questions sent in from the forums and from some of our co-hosts who couldn't be here today. Chris French asks, when you get the rights to an episode, do you get the episode on a used VHS and just clean it up, or what does that process work like?
Generally, when we're able to clear an episode, until recently, because I think many of your fans now know that Shout Factory purchased Mystery Science Theater 3000. Until recently, of course, we were a licensee of Best Brains. When we would clear an episode, I would then contact Best Brains and say, we've just cleared these 4 episodes for our next volume, and I would like to request those masters. They have masters of all the episodes on Digibeta, so they're pretty much the best quality you can find. So no, we've never ever used a VHS copy as source material for one of our releases. Never. It's always been from the Digibeta master. Sometimes those Digibeta masters have some flaws that either we can fix or if we can't fix them, then we request an alternate source master, and most of the time they have dupes that we can use. But they're still digibeta quality.
Now that you've acquired the rights to the show, is that process easier?
It will be, right. It will be as soon as we get all the inventory of their masters over here. Right now, of course, they're still in Minnesota, and the infrastructure isn't in place there. It's not as easy as it was to just request masters. We're working with some people to help us get those masters over here, but ultimately it will be much easier because we'll have everything here under our roof. And instead of needing help to get a master sent here, we just, get it ourselves. It'll be a lot easier.
Well, while we're on the topic, Torgo asks, what led to the acquisition of the series from Best Brains?
For years, we've been interested in acquiring it for purchase. We've been interested in buying it. Over the initial years of our distribution of the show, it sold so reliably. And also, at the same time, we noticed that there hadn't really been a whole lot of effort into expanding the brand and to finding new ways to engage fans and to just open it up, whether it's from the point of view of merchandise or, well, as you now know, new episodes. These are the kind of things we thought would really be beneficial. I think that it's just such an exciting, what's the word I'm looking for? It's such an exciting kind of, it's such a rich brand that is so due to be expanded, to have all different kinds of entertainment, whether it's an app, whether it's merchandise, and again, new episodes. There are so many things we wanted to do, and we thought it would be easier if we owned it and then we could just do it ourselves instead of being a licensee. So this has been in the works for years. It just happened, but it's been the result of years of effort, and not just in interest and in negotiation and all that. We've always wanted to make it a bigger business than it's been because we know the fans are there. We also firmly believed, and I think we've been proven right so far, that there are more out there. The hardcore fan base has kept those DVDs successful for years, but we also know that every new generation will love it as much as the generations that already love it. It's one of those cultural phenomena that just continues to bring in new fans. So we thought, yes, there's a bigger business here. It's a long-term play.
Alrighty. James of Linhood asks, regarding the KTMA episodes, it's been said that part of the reason these may not have been released is because Joel illegally broadcast these films in the first place, and that makes getting the rights to release these very difficult, if impossible. Is there any truth to that rumor?
No, there's no truth to that rumor. KTMA episodes, from the beginning, even when we initially asked everybody, should we release these? Do we want to release these? I mean, everybody, when I say everybody, I mean Best Brains and also the cast and Joel. Nobody was terribly interested in having those out there for this specific reason. Those episodes represented an incredibly talented team getting their sea legs and just kind of getting used to what this thing was, how to do it. And so it was a lot of hit and miss. It was, as you may or may not know, these KTMA episodes were not scripted. Mm-hmm. It was all improv. And as with any improv, even from the most talented improvisers, there's going to be some hits and some misses. And I think that they just felt they would rather have the episodes available to fans where they had already kind of figured out what this show was and how to do it and how to make it great. The KTMA episodes were essentially rehearsals for a magnificent show to come, but they were rehearsals and they just didn't feel like the rehearsals were terribly interesting and would be successful.
James goes on to say, if the full KTMA episodes can't be released, would you consider releasing a DVD that contained all of the KTMA host segments?
We would consider that. In fact, I'm pretty sure we did that. I don't know about all of them, but we did a collection of host segments on Shout Factory's very first release of the 20th anniversary edition. There was a compilation of host segments from KTMA. But to answer your question, yes, I think that is entirely feasible.
Be interesting to see because those first 3 episodes are still lost, and there's been rumors regarding this new Kickstarter that Joel or someone's going to let them out or show them as sort of a benefit of the providing the Kickstarter. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true though.
I'm not sure actually where those first 3 episodes are. I think that they may well be missing. We're as you can imagine, there's a storage room in Minnesota with thousands of tapes. I don't know. I'm hopeful that those 3 episodes are among them, but I'm not sure yet.
Here's a good question from Travis Hosey. As we start to run out of new to DVD in quotation mark episodes, will we start seeing more set/individual episode re-releases?
You mean once we've exhausted every unreleased episode, and every episode unreleased on DVD?
Yes.
Kind of like what we've done before with our Shout Select titles. We've re-released some episodes individually that had been previously released by Rhino. You mean like that, or do you mean like what we're doing now, which is kind of re-releasing the actual Rhino volumes? We came out with Volume 1. If those continue to sell well enough, we would look to keeping that going and kind of catching up where we left off on Volume
12.
12, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think he's referring to just re-releasing them just re-releasing all of the Rhino stuffs.
Ultimately, we'd love to have every single episode in print, one way or the other, whether it's on DVD or out there on a digital platform or even on TV. We'd like to have every single episode available to fans in as high quality as possible. So obviously, I think everybody can get every episode right now on YouTube, but many of those are user-generated and are not using high-quality source masters. Ultimately, we'd like to have the highest quality sources available to every fan for every episode.
I can't find the source on this rumor. Supposedly, Joel said it, quoting someone who worked at Shout Factory, I'm guessing you. He claimed that there are about 20 episodes that will probably never be released. Is there any truth to that rumor?
I don't know about 20. I can tell you that while a few years ago I might have agreed with that, I think we've shown in the last few years that even some episodes that, to be honest, even I had said the chances of licensing them are extremely slim to none. We've ended up releasing them. We were able to make a deal with the rights holder. We were able to find the rights holder and then negotiate a deal with them. I'm thinking of things like Puma Man and Final Sacrifice, 2 episodes that honestly I didn't think we were ever going to get. I guess at this point, never say never. On the other hand, I do know that I've checked in many times with Toho on Godzilla vs. Megalon, and they are not interested in any release of the Mystery Science version. So I would say that's one I'm pretty confident, unless corporate policy at Toho changes about that. I don't know that it will, but I don't see us ever getting that one.
So unless there's a miracle.
Unless there's a miracle.
You said his name, so I figured... Well, you said the episode, so I figured to ask. Jardis Gridonus.
Final Sacrifice.
Is there a reason he didn't want it released?
Honestly, I don't know. If there was a reason, I don't know it. I just know that I would check in probably once a year and say, any chance things have changed? And he would very politely say no. And then one year, it changed. So I have no idea what his reasons were for not wanting it out, and then I have no idea what his reasons were for being okay with it. I was just glad it happened. There's a kind of a black hole in the history of Mystery Science Theater when it comes to how they got these movies in the first place. I do know that Best Brains was not the entity licensing those films for the show. That's clear. Otherwise, there would be great records on where these films came from, who owns them, and I wouldn't have spent, the last 10 years trying to hunt down the rights holders to these movies. The licensing of these films was always done by the networks. So from whom they got them, I don't know. I will spin a theory of my own, although I have no basis in fact for this, but this is my theory, is that these movies were licensed by the networks not for Mystery Science. They were licensed by the networks just to show on the network, but there was some latitude or some license kind of taken with what they could do with these movies. And I think that they were just provided to Best Brains and said, here's a movie, do you want to work with this one? But I don't know that they specifically licensed rights to use the movie in this way for this show at the time. I just don't know. Based on some of the conversations I've had with rights holders over the years where I said, well, it was on the show. It's been out. This isn't the first time you're being asked. And some of them had said, yes, it is. So there may be some validity to my theory, but again, I have no way of knowing for sure.
Toby's joining us. Hey, Toby.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Toby.
Hi, how are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thanks.
Disco316 asks, was there a negotiation that was especially fun or rewarding to experience?
I don't know about any, particular negotiation. I do know that I've enjoyed meeting some of the rights holders. For example, I really enjoyed meeting Tony Zarandast, who has Werewolf. A very nice guy. I mean, a lot of these filmmakers are very fond of Mystery Science Theater. They get such a kick out of it, and they almost consider it a badge of honor to have had their films used on the show. I do remember, who was it that I found?
Ray Dennis Steckler?
No, that was not a fun one. There was a problem on that one. And he, in fact, was extremely, well, let's just put it this way. He's not a fan of the show.
Wasn't. Yeah, no longer with us.
But I did track down the rights to one of the movies, down to the dentist who financed it.
Was that Soul Taker?
Yes, it was Soul Taker. That's right.
Dr. Ivo Roystein and
Yes!
Dennis Carlo.
That's right.
Uber nerd.
Yeah, that's right. And I just, sometimes the hunt is really fun. Unless you're up against a deadline, then it's not so fun. But when you have time to really kind of look for these people, the hunt can be a fun one. Fortunately, working at Shout Factory and just being in the orbit of Mystery Science Theater uber nerds like you, there's no dearth of resources, of people who know where people are or know where the bodies are buried on all these movies. It's an amazing network out there of people who are very helpful in that regard, who really kind of are rights savants or just simply have a really strong knowledge of the history of these movies.
Well, he didn't ask it, but I'll figure I'd bring it up. Have you seen Travis Hosey's likelihood list that is featured on the MST3K fan page?
Absolutely. It's very helpful to me, actually.
He's going to be ecstatic to hear that. So
yeah, no, it's a great list. I always look forward to the revised list every time we put a volume out. I think that the estimation of the likeliness or the likelihood, whatever it is, of any particular film may not always be accurate. And it's fun for me to surprise them. It's fun for me to say to release a movie that was previously determined to be highly unlikely. On the other hand, it's not fun when a movie that I know is highly unlikely is looked at as being highly likely based on their rights information. But I totally appreciate that list that comes out, and I check it every time it does.
He sent in a bunch of questions because he's super eager to hear this interview.
Great.
From Projected Paul, would you consider re-releasing shorts compilations?
Yes, absolutely. It's always been a goal of mine to release the complete shorts with an interview with Rick Pralinger, who I've spoken to and who's willing to do it. We just haven't been able to find a time. But I thought that it would be a great extra for that compilation since he was so essential to those shorts. He licensed all of those.
I've been wondering why he hasn't been interviewed yet.
No, it's not for lack of trying. It's just a scheduling issue. But he's been very eager to do it, and I'm certainly eager to get him on camera.
I'll ask another one from Projected Paul.
Okay.
Do you have a role in acquiring the movie rights for the MST3K Kickstarter revival, or will Joel or someone else be overseeing that?
It's very much a team effort. So we're working with Joel on essentially presenting him with ideas for movies, and he's come to the table with his own choices, and anything he wants to do, we go out and get. There are also other ideas that we bring to him, and those are all being vetted. And as soon as Joel signs off on a movie, then we go out and try to clear it. So it's a team effort between Joel and me and our business affairs department and any number of consultants that we have, for example, who has rights to this or where the movies are.
Projected Paul further goes on to state, if the MST3K Kickstarter offered a DVD reward package of all of the episodes funded, as such 14, will Shout Factory be giving these a wide retail release in the future?
Will we be giving the episodes that were funded by Kickstarter a wide retail release?
The upcoming 14 that Joel's making.
Well, absolutely.
He goes on to say, with the new 14 episode, will you be splitting them between episodes made in the 1990s, like putting new episodes along with episodes that Joel did back in 1990, things like that.
Yes. Will we be bundling old classic MST with new MST?
Yes.
Basically they're wondering if they will be bundled together and continue the volume numbering.
I don't think we will be including a box set, at least not in any of the near future, a box set with episodes from the original series and episodes from the new incarnation. No, I don't think that's the plan. However, are we going to continue the numbering? That's a good question. I'm not even sure we've discussed that.
Any plans to do more collectible figurines in the same manner that you did Crow, Servo, Gypsy, etc.?
We're definitely looking forward to a more expansive merchandising program. I don't even think it would be limited to just including a figurine in a box set. I think that there will be, like I said, a real licensing program with respect to MST. What that looks like yet, we don't know. We're still very much in the exploration stage of that. What we wanted to do was to kind of get past the Kickstarter and the production of new episodes so that we can focus on that and make sure that those are the great episodes that they will be, and then really kind of dive into opening up the brand. So the answer to your question is absolutely there will be figurines down the road. Where they will be sold and what, how big, what they look like, who it is, that's all to be determined.
Travis Hosey asks, have the box sets been selling well?
Yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. I mean, Mystery Science Theater has been a reliable performer since the day they started being released on DVD. I mean, that is what attracted us to the property in the first place, and certainly what attracted us to the idea of actually purchasing the show. I mean, the boxes have sold reliably, and it is proven to us without any question that there is a loyal fan base. It was about making sure that was there, and also the potential for an even wider fan base that would then become the new loyal fan base. And we're very much assured that both are true, that both are there.
Could you look into releasing the live shows done at official conventions? They are lost episodes in their own right. Joel's television wheel pilot from '95 would also be a great extra to include on a future MST3K set as well. That was our question.
The live shows, the two issues with the live shows, I'm certainly open to releasing them, assuming we can kind of clear up the two issues, one of which is the quality of the source masters, because I don't believe we've actually looked at what Best Brains has on those, and I wouldn't want to just put out somebody's VHS release. We have a threshold of quality, and I think that we would want a professional source master. So again, once we get the inventory over to California and can really kind of dig through it and see what's there, we may uncover lots of great gems that we can release that we didn't know existed. It's kind of an exciting opportunity. The other one is the legal issue with respect to releasing live shows. I'm not sure what clearances were obtained at the time. We'd need to kind of look through whatever paperwork exists, and if it doesn't, then we have to make a determination on as to whether or not it's even feasible to release these. There may be parts of them we can release safely, and we'll look into all of that. All this archival footage of MST is very interesting to us, and we would like, if at all possible, to find a way to get it out there for the fans. It's all extremely interesting. It's important to the history of the show, and it's fun. And you're right. They are kind of like the unofficial episodes. So the answer to your question is the desire is absolutely there. Then we have to determine if it's possible, if it's really feasible to do it. That was the live show. There was another. Joel's TV Wheel. Yes.
Yeah, the TV Wheel / Xbox.
What a cool show that was. God, the guy is such a visionary. It's really an amazing show, and I would love to put it out. Actually, Joel owns that, so it's something to talk to him about. We've talked about it in the past, and I think there's been some interest, but maybe the interest will be higher now. I don't know. If I had my druthers, yes, it would absolutely come out as a fantastic bonus disc on one of our releases, because I think it's really a visionary program. He was so ahead of his time.
Personally, I mean, if it were at all possible, I would love to see some of Joel's appearances on SNL or the Tonight Show appear as an extra. I don't know how hard that would be to license.
They're not hard to license at all. They're extremely easy to license, but they're incredibly expensive to license.
Oh, boy.
So, I mean, that's the only reason we haven't already done it. It's just it was not making sense financially. If there were a way to get these performances at a reasonable price, because I don't know if you have any experience licensing from television networks or studios, but their rates are astronomical. But there were a couple of places Joel did stand up, like at some festivals that may have footage of his performances. How good the footage is, I'm not sure, but they would certainly be a lot easier to license. I think putting together a compilation of Joel's stand-up work would be amazing. In fact, I'll go even further. It would be incredible to release a compilation of so many of the cast were stand-ups. I would love to get footage of all their performances. I think it would be something really fun for the fans.
I think that'd be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Josh did stand-up, Trace did stand-up, Mike did. They've all done it. But I don't know what kind of footage exists and how good it is and clearance issues. But boy, oh boy, would that be a fun thing to put out, wouldn't it?
That would be a real treat.
Well, we've gotten through most of the easy questions. Now here come the licensing questions. Now, fair warning for the viewers: if you hear massive jumps in this episode, it's because we had to cut stuff out for legal reasons. So, here we go. I think at least 3 people asked this question, but we'll say Wadham Attack since he was the first. Regarding Rocket Ship XM, may I please ask what the status for that episode is, as far as getting a commercial release? Does Wade Williams want too much money for the former?
The answer to that is no, he does not want too much money. This is a case where Wade, and I simply have to respect his beliefs, Wade, while he has licensed other films to us for MST, is extremely protective of this particular film. He has a very deep sentimental attachment to it and simply does not want the MST treatment out there. So until he changes his mind, I don't think any amount of money is going to make a difference. He's a very nice guy. He's just, like I said, he has a particular attachment to this movie and does not want it out there. But it doesn't stop me from checking in with him probably once every 6 months to see if he's changed his mind. And I'm hopeful, given, successes in the past where I thought the likelihood of licensing was also slim, I'm hoping that maybe he'll change his mind at some point. You never know. People go through, things happen in their lives and they change their minds for whatever reason. So that's why I keep checking in, because you just never know. But, for the time being, he's not interested.
It'd be cool to have an XM special edition, because that doesn't exist, and I'm sure he'd be eager.
Well,
that's off the table.
Believe me, I've offered to put out the movie on its own without the MST treatment, along with it, to do a documentary about it, to restore it. I've tried everything. I've pulled every trick in the bag. I've pulled out, but he's pretty committed to not having it out there at this point.
Projected Paul asks, does Shout Factory hope to renew their license to the out-of-print MST3K Gamera episode?
The answer is someday, yes, of course, absolutely. This is also a question of cost-benefit analysis, essentially, because they want a lot of money to renew those. And based on our sales projections, given that they've already been out, I'm not sure that we would make anywhere near the amount of money that they're asking for. While I won't close the book on it, it's unlikely for the time being until, again, somebody changes their mind. Or, one of the things I always try to impress on licensors is that, at least as far as DVD is concerned, that window is closing with each passing day. And this is their last opportunity to monetize some of their content on DVD. So sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But for the time being, it's not going to happen. But I will, again, I don't give up on anything. And I check in all the time. It's just like a regular calendar thing I do. It's time to check in with, this licensor, that licensor, to see if they've changed their mind. So stay tuned.
Travis Hosey, James of Linhood, Projected Paul, and to an extent Rocket Man ask, is there an update on the Susan Hart-controlled titles?
I don't have an update on those. It's simply another case where I check in with her representative and see if there's any interest in doing it. And so far, the answer's been no. But, this is one where I feel, I don't know what it is. I don't really necessarily have any basis in fact for feeling this way. But my gut tells me that I will win her over at some point. I feel like those episodes will come out at some point. Again, that's another case where we made an offer, Shout did, to license her library for regular release, to give her the good old Shout Factory treatment to help sweeten the deal. But so far, we just haven't been able to do it. But again, I feel hopeful about this one. And I don't know why I do, but I do.
Wadham Attack 4 also wanted to know, what is the status of Stranded in Space? You have worked in the past with CBS, who own the rights. Did your commercial venture with them suddenly expire?
No, I don't think CBS has this one. I think we have to go straight to Paramount for this one. And honestly, we're talking to Paramount about the titles they control. So I'm feeling pretty good about Stranded in Space at some point.
Okay. Travis also asked, seeing as Shout Factory has licensed films from other major studios, can we expect films from the Paramount library at some point?
I think so, yes. I realize I'm changing Travis's likelihood list as we speak, aren't I?
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
It's like Albert Brooks in Broadcast News. I say it here, it comes out there.
Do you know who owns the rights to Attack of the Eye Creatures?
Attack of the Eye Creatures. I think that is Susan Hurd, isn't it?
We were worried about that.
That's an AIP film, isn't it?
It was AIP, but it was made by Larry Buchanan for AIP Television, and it did have a DVD release from Retro Media in 2004, but I don't know if that was legitimate.
I thought she had that, but if she doesn't, if Larry Buchanan owns it, that's very good news then, because I've been talking to his son, very nice man, and he said Larry was a huge fan of Mystery Science. So that would probably be an easy license to do, but for some reason, I think the reason I haven't spoken to him about it is because I was always under the assumption that Susan Hart owned it, and I'm almost sure she does.
She owns the rights to Invasion of the Saucer Men, and Attack of the Eye Creatures was the AIP television remake of that film, and that's the worry, is that because she has the rights to the original film,
she has the underlying rights.
She may have the remake, but we're not sure. But again, none of us are true lawyers, so we don't know. I'm surprised Buchanan was a fan, considering they had a sketch where they implied that Larry Buchanan didn't care about anything.
You know what? Like I said, sometimes the filmmakers have a really good sense of humor about it, and he was one of them, at least according to his son.
We've talked to a few, and yeah, it's surprising.
Yeah,
David Worth, David Giancola.
Oh, David Worth. He's a great guy. Actually, it's so funny. He was a neighbor of mine long before I knew that he was the filmmaker of Warrior of the Lost World. And so when we were putting that out, and I saw, wait a minute, David Worth, is that the same guy who used to live upstairs? And so I called him, and he was so tickled, and he absolutely loves Mystery Science Theater, absolutely adores it. So he was only too happy to do the extras for that one.
Great guy.
Yeah,
he was
really great.
Really great guy.
Travis also asks, do you know who owns the rights to Human Duplicators? Because we sure as hell don't.
That one falls into a category of films on the list of unreleased episodes that I would say unclear. And I don't mean unclear in a legal sense. I mean unclear in it's not entirely clear who owns that. Based on our copyright research, and we've done reports on everything, of course, it's still it's not totally clear, because sometimes a copyright can be owned, but the distribution rights may have been assigned elsewhere. So there's enough kind of murkiness around it where we have to do deeper research and or simply make determinations that this is safe to proceed, or we need to do more work, or we need to not deal with it at all because it's risky. So that falls into that bucket.
No one asked this, but I think this is an appropriate question. Of the 26 episodes that haven't been announced for DVD release yet, are any of them in the public domain that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm aware of. Again, public domain is a very strange legal category, because it's a conclusion. It's not an actual legal status, really, because you never really know for sure. To a certain extent, on the public domain titles, you're always going to be slightly looking over your shoulder, because until somebody actually warrants and represents that they have the rights, anybody can come out of the woodwork. And so you have to make a determination as to how likely it is that will happen.
City limits.
Well, again, it goes into an unclear category.
Okay. And I'm guessing Quest of the Delta Knights is a similar situation.
Unclear, yeah. I mean, it's my goal to get all of these at some point. As you can imagine, being on a production schedule where we're releasing 3 volumes a year, so we have to clear 12 episodes a year. What goes into which episodes get on any particular collection it's a combination of several factors. One of which is what's easier to clear. What is I always try to, if at all possible, I try to give two Mike episodes and 2 Joel episodes. If I can clear certain episodes that have a thematic unity to them, I always love to do that if possible. Those are things that I take into consideration when putting them together. And there are episodes that are going to require a lot more research to feel safe in releasing them.
Okay.
So those are the ones that kind of get pushed to the back while I focus on the ones that I can get out in time to keep our production schedule.
And we could sit here, and go through each one, but we're not going to do that because we just don't have the time.
Right. Yeah.
But thank you for answering the questions that were related to that, because I know that there's been a lot of questions and a lot of things like that, and it's nice to have clarity regarding that. There's an episode where Servo sings the entire chorus to Separate Ways by Journey. Don't you guys have to clear that for a DVD?
No, it really goes to parody.
Okay.
So, no.
That always question, because he sings the chorus. He doesn't change the lyrics. He sings the entire chorus. I don't know if you know the one I'm talking about, but
I do. But we're protected by parody. It really kind of yeah.
What advice would you have for an aspiring DVD producer or special feature producer?
Find a company that is releasing the kind of titles that you're passionate about, so that you can really bring something to the table. You have something to offer, something you know about, something you really care about. That's always going to create the best work.
All right. And with every episode, with every guest we have for the first time, we like to ask them, what are your top 5 favorite Mystery Science Theater episodes?
It's very tough, as I'm sure any fan will say as well. Because sometimes what makes my favorite episode is that the movie they're doing, and then sometimes it's the host segments, or sometimes it's the riffs. So it's all over the map. I'd have to say I love Mitchell. I love Puma Man. I love Final Sacrifice. I love Indestructible Man. I don't know that I've
really.
Yeah. I don't know why it cracks me up. There's actually that one has maybe my favorite riff of any riff that Joel ever did. And because it took me completely by surprise, and I just burst out laughing for like 5 minutes. It was a line, I'm not going to get it right, so you forgive me for that. What he says is, at some point, he says, it's either Crow or Tom says, who'd have believed that a man could come back from the dead? And then Joel, just in his absolutely unique kind of laid back way, just kind of throws away the line, only millions of Christians. And it got me so hysterical. I love that one.
I love that line too.
Yeah.
But I've never heard anyone list that as a favorite.
I know.
So
that's why I was nervous about listing it. But it's honestly, I think it's a fun movie it was a great movie to riff, and I just love it. And I love Daddy-O.
Daddy-O, Dick Contino.
Yeah. Was that 5? I think
that was 5.
Good.
I heard 5. This has been a great discussion. From one Uber fan nerd, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Very, very nice meeting you, sir.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you very much.
No problem. Maybe at some point you can be on the show again at some just to do a discussion episode on an episode.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you everyone for listening. I'm Toby Mobius.
I'm Joshua M.
I'm Jordan Fields.
And this has been the MSTieCast. You really don't care, do you?
Now, poopy.
As I say it here, it comes out there.